let's get that going there. And, okay, that's going. Hey, Zeus, good to have you here. We're 25 seconds away. Great way to support what we do on this show, everyone, is the Super Chat is open. You can hit that subscribe button if you are new to our channel. We'd appreciate that. Also, hit that thumbs up and that bell thingy, because apparently that lets you know when our shows are coming on. You can do a little shopping at the SOR Vault as well. We are 5 seconds away from cracking this thing up. Let's do it right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. All right. The end of each month, I bring on some friends to hang out, chill out, and chat about all of the strange things that have happened in the month that was. Speaking of October, though, it's a month of the paranormal and supernatural. So we're changing things up a little bit tonight. I brought in some serious woo tonight. Serious woo. All right? Karen A. Dahlman, in my opinion, is one of the top people when it comes to researching the hollowed and often controversial Ouija board. She is here with us, and the reason why Karen is here is because Karen normally, with her partner Rodney, comes on Halloween night, and we do live Ouija board readings and shows. A lot of people may not like that. There are some that tune out, but this year we're changing it up because Rodney got a little busy, and Karen is here all alone, so we have to cuddle her and make sure that she is all ready and feeling loved this Halloween. Darn you, Rodney. Darn you. We also have Nicole Sakach, UFO researcher. You're familiar with her. She is partnered up with Grant Cameron, a part of his team. And from the beautiful province of Saskatchewan here in Canada, Matt Lay and Alyson Ford, the husband and wife team, paranormal team. Where I'm going to be honest, Matt's beard is one of the top 3 beards in the paranormal right now in North America. Prove me wrong, people. Prove me wrong. Panel, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Halloween Special Roundtable. How are you?
Yeah, my beard thanks you.
Very nice. Very nice. Absolutely. We're going to start off with a little bit of Halloween. Let's warm things up a little bit here because we all have that spooky story that really led us into this field, that story that really sold us that this phenomena has something to it. And Alyson, I want to kick things off with you here right off the bat here because it's been a while since you've been on the show. Mm-hmm. And I want to know what caused you to all of a sudden take on the paranormal.
It was from a very young age, and I grew up with a family friend, and her mom was kind of into everything, paranormal, metaphysical, and she actually had a really good friend that would come out to the farm on the weekends, and he's actually kind of a famous guy in Saskatchewan. His name was Professor Buddy Wynn. He has been known over Canada as well. He started out with paranormal. He's a parapsychologist, and then he started into UFO research as well. But when he would stay at the farm on the weekends, he would actually tell us ghost stories. But of course, they were real ghost stories. And I just ate it up. So I was just completely fascinated. And again, my dad was also into the paranormal, and anything that all the stories he would tell me, I just loved. It wasn't until later on in life that I ended up having some of my own experiences. And again, I guess when you're a young kid and something kind of scares you, it gets you excited. And I was always that kid that, if it's getting me excited about something or I'm scared about it, I just want to know more about it. So again, that's kind of why I started to, read as many books as I could find and talk to as many people as I could, and try to have my own experiences. And then later, when I discovered the PASS team and getting some of the equipment that I was wanting to, bring to the paranormal community, getting it tested, then I started having, quite a few experiences, and, some quite unnerving experiences, being touched or having my name whispered into my ear, and again, exciting, but also intriguing at the same time. And it just became, an all-encompassing hobby. And it's kind of, then I picked up this guy beside me, and then that kind of just went from there. Now our whole life is basically paranormal.
But that's a lot of fun, though. That's a lot of fun. And Nicole, I bring you in here, and do you recall your first paranormal experience?
I do. And it was, I think I was around 5, and I had just had my grandmother passed away. And I'm one of those experiencers who I started off more on the ufology side, and then I kind of retraced my steps into paranormal activity that had happened to me. And yeah, after my grandma passed away, I kept feeling like the pressure on my bed, like somebody was sitting on my bed, or somebody would stand up like they were sitting on my bed and they would leave my room. But several times over the couple weeks that this happened, I felt an overwhelming presence along with this sensation that somebody was there in my room with me. And I always associated it with my grandmother. So I can't say it was like, ooh, I'm spooky or spooked out and scared, or woo, it's Halloween. All these things get me going. But yeah, that's what I would consider my first paranormal experience, was I just knew there was something in the room with me.
Matt, how about you? This goes way back for you. And by the way, we should mention that Matt is a United States Air Force veteran, and we love our veterans around here, so we're going to give you a few claps for being a veteran, Matt. Thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you. Very similar. Growing up on the Gulf Coast, in that time frame, there were so many UFO encounters and reports. That seemed to be the common trend. But going back, that would be my younger years, but going back before that, I would have the occasional occurrence where I couldn't explain seeing something in my room. Or my favorite story is I knew something was in my room, and I'm guessing probably about 8, and my mom came in the room and saw it too. So that was probably the earliest one that I can remember. But after that, it was all for a couple of years in the 70s and whatnot. It was the chasing after any object in the sky at that age, because that was all over the newspaper, anywhere from Gulf breeze to, you name it. So it went from Spooksville to UFOs back to Spooksville, I guess you'd say, not to coin the phrase from Scooby-Doo.
Karen A. Dahlman, we bring you in here because your life is paranormal as well. And you have been doing this and researching the paranormal and communicating with spirit for a long time here. And I don't know how you've been in this so long when you only look about the ripe age of maybe 30. It doesn't make sense to me. does not make sense. But I'm going to ask you point blank, do you recall your first paranormal experience?
Well, first of all, I want to say happy Halloween to everybody out there. It's a little early, but let's just ring it in now. And I want to say I got started in utero. That's why I look so young, Dave. Listen, my whole life's been full of woo. All right, so I came into this world, seriously, having an imaginary playmate that I remember from the age of 2. And I talked to this being up to the age of 5-ish, almost 6, going into kindergarten. And this little being looked like a sprite, like an elf. His name was Dacky. Super, super cute, super friendly. And I would talk to him all the time. My mom would say, "Who are you talking to?" I said, "Well, Dacky, don't you see him?" And of course, nobody saw him. And I was told, you need to stop this if you want to go to school and be like a big kid. So I thought, oh God, Dacky, I got to put you away. We can't do this anymore. So I had to put Dacky away, and we can get in this later, but when you put things away like this when you're a child, they always come back around. Now, Dacky was a lovely little friend, but I had to let him go. And then throughout my life, I would say, Dave, from the talks we've had before, at the age of 8, I was introduced to the Ouija board. Woo, woo, woo. Let me say a lot of woo there, because the Ouija board was like my lifeline. It was my extension back to those days when I could communicate with spirits, something that nobody else could see. And that was really where it started. My odyssey has been going on since then, and I have so many paranormal encounters, adventures, scenes. I see apparitions and auras. All kinds of things happen, and it's because I've been so open to the other dimensions.
Oh, wow. Mine would have to be, I don't recall having a paranormal experience until I was, 1995, 96, so 22, 23 years old. Actually, it was 21, pardon me, when my grandfather died. And I remember getting ready for his funeral. And I had a bathroom in the basement of my parents' place because I was still living at home. And I had one of those those bathrooms that was kind of on a side wall. There was no windows. And when I got down or depressed, I would just crank the shower up as hot as I could. And I kept the fan off to keep that steam and that heat in there. And I'm kind of just standing in the shower thinking, you know what, Grandpa, I miss you. And this is like, my grandfather was my idol. And all of a sudden, this cold wind comes right through my glass shower doors and literally surrounds itself with me. And I hear this voice that says, "Don't worry. Everything is going to be okay." And I just started bawling my eyes out because it felt very angelic. Very angelic. So a year later, nothing happened in between then, but a year later, my sister gets married. Same shower, same scene. I'm thinking of all those moments of my sister, how she used to torture me as a kid, and now here she is, a grown woman and getting married, and she was 7 years older than me, still is 7 years older than me. But the exact same thing, exact same voice. Same shower, everything. Don't worry, everything is going to be okay. And I was just like, wow, this is hugely, hugely weird. And that was my first ever paranormal experience that I had. Same thing. I don't get it. Don't know why, but that's the way it is. So as we move forward here, and let's talk a little bit about the Ouija board here. Because, Karen, you are someone who specializes in this, and we're not going to go into the history or anything along those lines, the usual questions that we ask. But out of all the sessions you have done with the Ouija board, what is the most strangest occurrence you have seen happen?
Oh my gosh, I've had so many. And I write about them in all my books. So let me think if I could pick one. Well, I do remember, oh wow, okay, here we go. This is the one where I was blindfolded, and so was my Ouija board partner. We could not see the board at all. And in fact, we were using a board I was not familiar with. It was the larger William Fold board from the 50s. I was used to the small one from the 1970s, which is the one I got from Santa Claus in 1973. So we were sitting down blindfolded, and I had a bunch of girls that didn't believe what we were doing. And back in those days, this was 1986, I was into proving to people that this works. Today, I don't care at all if anybody believes in my woo-woo, the stuff that I do. At any rate, we sat down, and I said, invited all my friends to sit around the board. And I was in a sorority. I was in college. And the girls sat down, and they said, oh, yeah, whatever. I said, well, let me show you. We'll blindfold ourselves. So my partner and I blindfolded ourselves, had the board sitting there. I picked one of my friends who also used the board with me to do the honor of writing down the messages. So the planchette starts moving. We can't see a thing. And she's writing down things. And it's moving so fast, so quickly. It's like I couldn't even hardly keep up with it. And all of a sudden, it came to a halt. And this went on for several minutes. And I heard one of my sorority sisters crying and weeping. I was like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, go ahead, read the message. And so what happened was I said, go ahead and read the message to us. And the message was basically this. It said, hello, Layla. This is your sister. I'm here. I'm fine. I love you. Tell Mom and Dad that I am okay, and I love them too. Know that my boyfriend and I died on impact. There was nothing that we felt, no pain. The only pain we ever felt was what we felt at our funerals when you all expressed so much pain. We're asking you to let that go now and know that we love you and will be with you forever.
Oh, my.
Now, I thought for a second there, I said, hey, wait a second. You have a dead sister? I had no idea this woman in the room had a dead sister. Nobody else in that room but one other person knew that. She kept it very private. It was so much grief. She didn't want to talk about it. And we all sat there dumbfounded, gobsmacked. Our mouth was opened. It was like you could hear a pin drop, and then all of us started crying. I mean, we all cried so deeply. And the gal whose sister came through cried so deep. It was like that guttural, wrenching, oh, my God, kind of cry. You can't stop, the dirty kind of ugly cry. And then I said, okay, you guys, no more fun and games. And I said, from now on, there's no reason to prove anything anymore. This tool can be used to help heal and to help release pain. And that gal there, it was her sister who was transitioned, who spoke to us. She said, I will speak to my mother and father and tell them. I followed up with her later, and she said, sure enough, her mom and dad believed me. They knew who I was. They said, we absolutely believe Karen and her partner, Linda, and we feel so much better to get that message. And from that day, I got to tell you, there's like 10 of us in the room. The 8 of the other girls who were not part of the session, or just listened to the session, they weren't part of using the Ouija board, they walked away changed. Some of them never spoke about it again. A few talked about it a couple more times, and one of them actually wrote about it in the back of one of my books because she was so profoundly touched and changed forever from that session. And I got to tell you, that session, when I talk about it, I'm still very emotional about it. It's like it happened yesterday.
No kidding. Thank you for sharing that, Karen. Matt or Alyson, I don't know if you're into these talking boards or not. What's your thoughts or your weirdest stories?
Well, you go first.
I've had a little bit of success with the Ouija board. We have tried it on investigations, and I know, like when I was younger, my friend and I had played with the Ouija board too. I say played with, but it was, it wasn't done in any disrespectful way. Again, it's something that I personally haven't used a lot of, and I think it's a tool that if people use it respectfully, it can absolutely be a good tool. Again, it's a divination tool. It's you're using a pendulum. You're using any of these types of tools, and again, done respectfully, and that I think definitely it could be a good tool.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I think Ouija boards are an excellent tool. It's a shame that all the media hype that makes it, scarier than it can be. But unfortunately, it's just another tool in the arsenal that you can utilize. And I personally, I don't know, I can't say I haven't, but it's one of those things that just not usually one of my first tools that I pull out.
Okay, but going back in time, Matt, do you have as we only got about 3.5 minutes here before we go to break, do you have a Ouija board story that really sits with you, that resonates still?
No, I do not. Everything that I've encountered was kind of more or less either expected or I didn't get a response. So personally, no. Other than testing, we did do some testing and got some very positive responses. We're checking the natural magnetic field around it and the static fields. So we do measure that when we're utilizing different tools. And we were able to measure how the static field actually increases when Ouija board is being used.
Very true. How about for you, Alyson?
Yeah, again, there isn't really anything profound that I would say. And again, I guess it just depends on who you are doing the Ouija board with. But I have used it with people that, it's a tool that they like to go to all the time. But personally, I honestly can't say that it's been something that's really profound that's happened to me.
And also, how are we supposed to follow up with a story like that? My heart's still aching from that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm telling you, I'm still emotional here. That happened in 1986. It so touched me, and it was my pivotal moment when everything changed for me with the Ouija board. Instead of just talking to the deceased, I saw it as an opportunity to help people to heal.
Exactly, and that's especially if you have something impacting like that, it would definitely change everything. I just hope I would have an impact like that. That would be amazing.
I mean, as far as it being a credible, if you're wanting to present it as evidence, I'd have to say it's not really something that you could present as credible evidence just because of having, so many people, so many people involved in it, and there's a lot of human error that could come into that if you wanted to go, chase more of the scientific route of it. But again, that's kind of not what I'm all about either, because again, it's like enjoying the experience, enjoying the moment. It's not always about getting the best credible evidence out there. So
very true. Very true. We have a minute to go. Nicole, do you have a special Ouija board story that you could tell in a minute or that we can carry over?
I think I do. I've only messed with Ouija boards twice in my life. And once when I was a little girl, a Ouija board, I was playing with my cousin. She asked it who I would marry one day. And I didn't marry that person, but I married his best friend, which I thought was interesting. And then 15 years later, once I was married, I lived in St. Louis, but my husband was stationed in Great Lakes, Chicago. And so I was doing double duty between the two cities. And I lived next to this old halfway house in St. Louis, and they always said this building was haunted. Well, my roommates and I decided to make our own planchette one night, and we spoke to 3 spirits, and one ended up banging on my roommate's drum set, like boom, 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 boom.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Well, hold that thought right there, because we're going to get you to go into detail when we come back here on Spaced Out Radio. The Roundtable continues with Nicole Sakach, Ouija board expert Karen A. Dahlman, and Matt Lay and Alyson Ford. A great roundtable discussion, all paranormal, all night long, here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, guys, we're clear.
We're clear.
Thank you.
That was a wicked story, Karen. Wicked story.
Isn't that fantastic? It's out of control. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm telling you, it's changed my life immensely, that one moment. So pivotal.
No kidding. Wow.
That is. That's the woo Halloween.
No kidding.
Woo, woo, woo. Let's do some more woo, guys.
I know, I keep forgetting.
You got to put the woo in there in Halloween. Don't forget.
Yes. Oh, the Scoreboard Lounge is going to be messed up by the time we're
I
done
think
with
they
it.
might already have a tipsy going on already.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you
Poor
got him on the floor.
Poor Brittany and Rob hanging out there, you know. And I'm sure everybody's going, woo, every time we go, woo.
I wish I could join them.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Right? I'm drinking my tea. I'm a teetotaler over here.
Yeah, we got the coffee brewing.
Exactly. Look at woo in the house. I love it.
I love it. I love it. Let's see here. Let's see.
How much time do we have, Dave?
We got about 4.5 minutes.
Oh, good. I made some more tea. I'll be right back, guys.
No problem.
Wow, 116 in the chat.
116, half hour in. Let's see if we get that number up higher.
See third phase, Julie, Sandra.
Hold on.
Hi, Pat.
Hold on. Who's in there? Oh, there's our friends, third phase. Blake and Brett, fantastic hair down in Hawaii. Fantastic hair. Love them. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. I don't know. She always wants me to say her name 3 times. It's like voodoo or something.
Yeah, it's a Beetlejuice.
Yeah. But she never appears. That's the problem. She never appears. Oh, Brittany went to buy a Ouija board to bring in. Damn you guys. Love you. That's from Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Happy Halloween to everybody at Scoreboard Lounge. Wherever the hell you are in Michigan. Somewhere there. I always forget. Bad host. Bad host. It's not in Detroit. It's like in the southern part of Michigan, I believe. Hi, Nikki. Good to have you back. Hi, Jenny. Good to see you, beautiful. EM, thank you for coming on in. Hi, sexy yourself. Manuel, thank you for coming on in, man. Tell you a real scary story. Well, I'm going to tell my freaky Ouija board story coming up here. Actually, it's kind of heartbreaking. I'll tell you that when we come out of break. Oh, something paranormal dropped there. Woo! If you want to have a real freaky story, Manuel, let me tell you about my ex-wife and her mother. You won't sleep for weeks. The old haggis, when I was dancing with her at my wedding, having my mother-in-law dance, whispered in my ear, "I'm going to be your worst nightmare." I didn't think it would come true. No, it's true. You can laugh. Swear to God. Yeah. TMI.
I just joined you on that note. Dang.
Oh, yeah. Seriously. Seriously.
Predictions, yeah? Prophecy?
Totally, right?
Don't need a Ouija board for that.
Totally. No, definitely not. No, she scared the hell out of me. Yeah, she was, and then after she would cheap shot me and then go run and hide behind her Christian faith, and it was horrible. It was horrible, you know. But oh well, it's over. It's 10 years over, and I'm happy. Happy.
Yeah, you know what? Life goes on. New chapter.
You got that right. You got
and a new beard.
Fantastic beard. Fantastic beard.
Yeah, you do. A pretty good beard.
What do you think of the hair, Karen Dahlman?
Well, it's interesting.
I like it.
I do too. It's different. I mean, it totally takes you like a whole
let me
new
shake
look.
it up a little bit here. How is that?
Go.
that any better there?
Hold on. Work it.
Hold on. It's coming. We got 10 seconds here. Thank you, Gorgeous Jules, for the super chat. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and do a little shopping at the SOR Vault on our website. Here we go. There, I shook it up for you. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight it's the SOR Roundtable. We are joined by Ouija Board expert Karen A. Dahlman. We have Nicole Sakach, UFO researcher and assistant to Grant Cameron, and the husband and wife paranormal team of Matt Lay and Alyson Ford. They are based out of Saskatchewan. It is so flat there, everyone. Everyone, if you start waving in your houses right now, no matter where you are in the world, Matt and Alyson will be able to see you and wave back. So hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show.
Hello. Wave.
We're all waving right now. Absolutely. Why not?
Ooh, I see you.
Why not? It's the way we roll around here. That's the way we roll. Now, Nicole, I wanted you to finish your Halloween Ouija board story.
Right. So I was living in St. Louis, and my husband was stationed in Chicago. So I was taking Amtrak about twice a week. And I had a roommate who we kind of worked opposite hours. I would sleep during the day, he would be gone at school. I would work at night. He would be there, that sort of thing. Well, after we lived there about 3 months, we finally caught up and we were like, hey, what do you think of the, really loud people that stomp around that live upstairs and, shooting the shit like that. And we happened to station in front of our neighbor who lived across the hall. And this guy was great. He was like our own personal Kramer. He just kind of burst in the door all the time. And he had keys to everywhere in the building. So he's also very useful. But he said, what do you mean the people upstairs? And we said, yeah, the people upstairs, when they walk down the hallway, assuming their apartment was similar to ours, when they walk down the hallway, it's like they stomp. And he goes, the apartment above you's empty. And we were like, what? No way. And then he got freaked out. He thought maybe somebody was squatting in the apartment. So we ran up there and checked it out, and nobody was there and things like that. And that's when we got this idea that we needed to use a Ouija board. And then, of course, we didn't have one. So we thought it would be a great idea to make our own, which we did. For some reason, we had a random piece of wood. It was about the size of a coffee table, and we just kind of wrote our own letters on it. And then we were dumbfounded because we didn't have a pointer. We were like, what can we use? What should we use? Well, the same neighbor had this really old antique letter opener, which had a pointer and a small magnifying glass in the center of it as well. So we used that. And not only were we dealing with one spirit, but it was supposedly 3. And we took turns, kind of all 3 of us, using the Ouija board. 2 of us would use it. One of us would write in a notebook. And yeah, and like I said, after probably 40 or 50 minutes, we had asked it if it could prove, that it was here, that, it was in the apartment. And we had my roommate played drums, and it was set up in our dining room. And we didn't have a table or anything like that. We didn't entertain dinner guests. So it was our drum room. And yeah, it did like a drum solo. Boom, boom, boom. And I freaked. I was like, oh my God, if it can hit the drums, it can throw something at me, and I just freaked out. And I was like, okay, we need to stop. You guys need to just leave us alone. If you think it's funny, it's not funny. We're scared. Stop, leave us alone. Bye, quit playing. And yeah, everything stopped. We didn't hear noises upstairs. I had a closet door that kept opening. My door didn't open anymore. The drums didn't play themselves anymore. And yeah, that wrapped it up, except it scared me still so badly that I moved. I made the decision that I was just going to move to Chicago. So within, I would say 3 weeks, I had left St. Louis. So it was a motivating experience for me.
No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
That would do it every time. It's like playing with aliens. You just either going to accept it or leave it, and you left it.
Yeah. The talk in the neighborhood was that the building next to our apartment complex, housed spirits. It was just like a vortex for angry spirits that were once on this halfway house. So I don't know. I believe now, that there are energy places. So, and I think the boards are a great tool if you take precautions, I guess. I don't know.
Well, my Ouija board story is a little heartbreaking, and I'll tell you why. So, and I think I mentioned this story once before on the air, where the Ouija board, about 6 weeks previous, this is going back to, I think, 2013, 2014. Yeah, in there. So we're doing this spirit board session, and the board spells out millionaire. And I had been having these weird dreams about $43 million. And so the board that night spells out millionaire, and I went, what do you mean by this? Because I'd been having these dreams. And then it pointed, the planchette came towards me and pointed at me. I'm like, oh, weird. I'm like, well, what's supposed to happen? And it spelled out buy a ticket. So started asking all these questions about, do I follow the same thing and how much? And then, because I had 43 million in my head, I said how much, and it spelled out 40. It went to the 4 and then the 3 for 43 million. So I was like, oh, that's weird. I said, how many weeks from now? And it was like 9 weeks. Weird number. It was like 2 months away, 9 weeks, whatever it was. So lo and behold, the week before we confirmed this, and coming up is the lottery, and it is $43 million. So I go to my gas station, do exactly the way the board says. I put the ticket in my pocket that morning, get my gas, drive out to work, meet my wife back at my friend's house later on, and we get on the spirit board. I totally forgot about the ticket. First thing we do when we get on the board, the planchette starts going, and it says, congratulations. And I went, congratulations? Why? Something like you won the lottery or just the word lottery. And oh, yeah, darn it, I got to check my ticket. So I literally race out to my car to grab my jacket, grab the ticket, hop online to find the numbers for that night, and I have no numbers. Not a single one of my 7 numbers matched the winning ticket. And I was like, for 9 weeks, you have been building me up on this, only to give me not a single number? And the board spelled out, oops, sorry.
Dang.
Yeah, that hurt. Not going to lie. That hurt because, you know what? My bank account could really use that $43 million right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience, even spirits have a sense of humor.
That is so true. Oh my gosh. You guys, I've always tried to ask the Ouija board years ago when I was a lot younger if I could get the lottery numbers. And guess what? I couldn't get them to the board, but I got them in my dream one night. I got all the numbers. It was when I was living in Texas. The year was like 1989 now, or 1989 or 90. They had just instituted the very first lottery Governor Ann Richards put that into place, and I was so stoked to play because I'd never lived where you could do a lottery. And I went and played it. I got these numbers, and I woke up and told my boyfriend, I said, oh my God, I got all the numbers. I'm going to go play them. I played them, and every single number was right, but I couldn't remember the last number. And I won, but I didn't win because I didn't have the last number. But I did win hundreds of dollars. So you can get your lottery numbers in a dream. Don't trust the Ouija board for that, but look to your dream for those.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I didn't even play the lottery. I'm not a lottery ticket kind of guy. I just went along with it because this is what the board was telling me to do. I used to buy tickets previous to that, and then it said, well, you got to buy them again. So I did. I just followed along to see what would happen. I'll tell you, it was a cruel joke. It was a very, very cruel joke.
Don't you see that as maybe kind of a one-off, though? Because, like, okay, you got all the numbers except you couldn't remember one, and it was inspired by the board. Dave, you got prompted to start playing again. Maybe you were off by a week. You know, maybe that's what it was. And here mine, the first one I play, here I don't marry the boy that it gives me, but his best friend. So it's like, that's just so strange.
Woo,
it's like
total woo. Total woo. As Fap says in the chat room, I totally got trolled by a ghost. Totally did. Totally did. It was vicious. Let's move on here because we've all had weird, strange encounters and scary experiences with the paranormal, whether we've accepted them as, yeah, that's what's happened, or whether it rattled us. Matt, I'm going to bring you in here because you got that gorgeous beard. And I want to ask you point blank, you know, going back in time, I know now is a different side of you because you've learned a lot more of the paranormal, but going back in time, was there ever an experience you had that you could tell us that really rattled you about the paranormal?
There's actually a couple, and you know, there's one actually more recent than others, because the way I look at it, when you're doing paranormal investigations, you not only review your evidence, but you re-review and re-evaluate and re-review. And we just recently re-reviewed some evidence from just a couple of years ago, and we thought we saw something, but a production team came in and was filming one of my lectures, and they saw in the presentation, and just tell you a little bit of background story. I'm a practitioner, a magical practitioner, and so we were doing not only doing a ritual, but we were investigating that ritual. And there was several personal accounts where people thought they saw apparitions or shadow play in the tree line. And one of the cameras actually caught one of them, and it was a woman that slowly appeared stepping out from the tree line, and she just turned and disappeared again. So whether it be multidimensional or spirit or however you want to word it, but our quality was very low. So we looked at it as evidence, but we didn't really, it wasn't a wow. But the production team was in here, and they asked for the presentation and everything, so they cleaned it up, and it became a wow for us because you can see the woman in very detail, her hair, her robe, everything, and it was literally spine-chilling to see how detailed she was. But if I was a step way further back, this would go along the lines of UFO, the first triangle UFO that I'd ever seen. I was really young. I was wrestling with a buddy of mine. I think we was like 13 or 14. And he had me pinned down. I was a skinny little runt. And he had me pinned down. And all of a sudden, I just feel his grip loosen up. And of course, I'm going to take every opportunity I could because I was so small. So I throw him back, and he's just literally looking up. And I look up, and there's a triangle UFO. And so I grew up as a practitioner, and so my first thought is communication, and it's always been my focus is communication. So I run to my house, I go grab my staff, and I run out to this field, and I could see it in the distance, and it actually made the headline papers in Mobile, Alabama. And because fortunately there was a Gulf State Fairgrounds were going on, so there was a lot of people that saw this. And so as I'm putting markings in the ground and I'm focusing on it, it turned and started to come back. Now I went from intrigued to absolutely, oh crap, what did I do? And so, which led me to believe, and now I firmly believe that, the consciousness can connect on many different levels, and whether it be from spirit or multidimensional. And all it did was did a slow pass. And so these type of things, have always influenced my life. But those are the two recent and early years that stand out the most right now.
I bet. How about for you, Alyson?
Again, with the, it's funny because my scary moments with, say, spirit or ghost have usually happened when I wasn't actively investigating. I kind of get into that investigation mode, and nothing really terrifies me or scares me, but when I'm not anticipating it, it's caught me off guard a few times.
Give us an example of you going woo and jumping out of your shorts.
Woo woo. Just recently, actually, in the town that we're in, there's that old hotel that we've investigated quite a few times. And the people that used to own the building, they used to run kind of like a Halloween haunt upstairs on the top floor. And
Did you say Halloween?
I did Halloween.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's Halloween.
Yep. And so anyway, on my spare time, I was actually helping to, decorate and clean it up and get it ready for everyone to come through. And I was, just checking my messages and just walking down the hallway. And I literally heard like distinctive footsteps, like run right up behind me, and was just clear as day. And I knew that there was nobody else upstairs but me. And I was just kind of paralyzed for a second because it completely caught me off guard. I have no idea why I didn't turn around with my phone and take a photo. Wasn't thinking in the moment. Again, it just startled me because it was completely off guard. I guess it's still a little disconcerting to have your name whispered in your ear as well. That's caught me off guard a few times. But again, if it's in investigation mode, usually I'm like, oh, I really hope I caught that on camera. I hope I caught that on mic. But to me, like anything right now that really scares me the most or kind of is disconcerting to me is UFO phenomenon. There is quite a bit of UFO phenomenon in Saskatchewan. Again, it's, going back to it's so flat. You can see the entire sky. I don't really make it public, but I have seen something that I can't explain. And I was with my daughter at the time, and it really scared me. And to this day, it's almost like a dream. I know what I saw, but everything in your mind is trying to make you think that it's something else. And again, like spirit, I'm okay with. Ghosts, I'm okay with. I feel like it's not that I don't feel like they can harm me, but when it comes to like alien life or UFO life, again, I just think that they are just so much more advanced than we are, and they're just, so much more like what is a human to that, us to them. Like, are we like ants? Are we like small animals? Like, I don't know. And again, I'm just a little bit precautious, and when I see photos of aliens and that, it still bothers me. It actually kind of scares me, and I don't know. And maybe that's just because I don't really know a lot about UFO phenomenon. I haven't really researched it a whole lot, so that really is disconcerting. And especially when you are out in the middle of a field and it's pitch black, because where we are. There isn't really a whole lot around here, a lot of civilization. And when you see something that is completely out of this world, in the moment and you are on the stark bald prairie in the pitch black darkness and there's nobody around you. I mean, that scared me, and it's really stuck with me through the years. I honestly, I don't really have a lot more to say about that other than I have engaged a few other people, talking about things that they've seen and stories about people, missing time and what they've seen in and around this area. And yeah, I mean, I do want to study it more, but again, it's something that is kind of terrifying to me.
So in other words, you got aliens. It's okay to have little aliens every now and again. It really is. Talk to old Davey. We can make you comfortable having some aliens. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay to have Nicole. It's okay to have little aliens, isn't it?
Absolutely. If I have to have a little paranormal, everybody can have a little aliens.
Exactly. You never go wrong with the little aliens in your life. I mean, sometimes they do things you don't want them to do, and but most of the time you just get little aliens. Karen, let's get to you here as we turn on the woo here, turn it up the woo factor. How about for you, my beautiful friend, as we got about 3 minutes to go here before we go to break, your weirdest or scariest story that you could recall?
Oh my God, I've had so many. Here we go again. Okay, so let's see. Let me see. Strangest or weirdest? What should I do?
Let's go weirdest.
Okay. All right, so here's a weird one. And a lot of my stories have to do with the Ouija board. That's the tool I really love to use. Although I am into aliens and UFOs and cryptids and a little bit of everything.
Hold on. See, Alyson, Karen's got some aliens too.
I love little aliens. They're all good.
Exactly.
Everybody loves a little alien in them. So I'm trying to do my Irish brogue. I'm not very good at it. But yeah, so I was at Cielo Drive, which is in LA. It's the place where Charles Manson and his crew murdered a bunch of people. And I was up there at David Oman's house, and I didn't know the whole story about his house. I just was invited up there, and I had the board, and we used it downstairs. I said, let's use it at the place where we felt the most activity without knowing much of what he was about the house at all. We go to his third floor, which goes downstairs, and my friend was with me. She's very sensitive, and all of a sudden we went to this one room. We wanted to almost throw up. It was this horrible thick energy. I said, okay, this is where we're going to do the board. So we immediately got on the board, and what came through was, first of all, we started hearing belabored breathing in our ears, and then what came through was Charles Sebring, let me see, Charles Sebring, a few of the people came through. Three of them that were murdered there came through. And the one that came through that we were surprised about was Stephen Parents. Now, that was the 18-year-old that was outside the house that got shot, and he wasn't even part of this group of partiers. He wasn't like Sharon Tate's friend. He just happened to show up to see the pool guy. That was it. He had nothing to do with it, but he came through loud and clear. And they came through with the story and told us why they stayed there and still were haunting that place. Not really so much haunting. They were making their presence available because they had a truth to be told. And I went up to David Orman. I walked upstairs and I told him what the truth was. He says, I don't care. He said, that's why my place is haunted. I go, but this is not right. You have the information you're supposed to go to the police with. He said, I'm not going to. And I cannot tell you what that is. You have to read my book to get that information. But I'm telling you, it was the weirdest thing because we got all the secrets there. And my friend knew nothing about the case. She didn't remember much about the Charles Manson thing. I knew somewhat about it. But when we started getting the stories and especially what Sharon Tate wanted to tell us, we were like, OMG. And so that secret still remains a secret.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
But I exposed it in my book. I actually put it in there, and I said,
Good.
What? I got to tell the truth. The Spirit said, tell the truth. But they still needed to be out in the public, and it's not out in the public yet.
All right. Well, you all hold on here because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. The SOR Paranormal Round Table. It happens near the end of each month where we kind of bring in some friends to debate and discuss the month that was. But this month is a little special as we wrap things up, as it is finishing up with Halloween. And we all love this time of year. Spooky stories are going to continue here in hour number 2 as we got 2 hours left of the round table with our fantastic panel for tonight. We have Karen A. Dahlman, Ouija Board expert, UFO researcher, and assistant Grant Cameron, Nicole Sakach, and the husband and wife team of Matt Lay, Alyson Ford, and Matt's Beard, all coming together for one great show tonight on the SOR Roundtable. We'll be back right after this. All right, guys, we're clear. You guys chat away to our YouTube audience. I'm just going to step away. We got 6 minutes. I'll be back in a couple.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So remember, the YouTube guys could hear everything you say.
Yeah, it's I just bringing back the alien research. There is a plethora out here, and I know a lot of people are really hesitant about sharing their stories. And I mean, I just heard a story the other day, and I mean, it just rocked my socks off. There was it's a town not too far from here. I'm not going to use any names or any names of towns. Just that it was a couple. They were on their way to another friend's farm for dinner, and apparently they'd seen something out in the field, and this other couple was waiting for their dinner guests to arrive, and they didn't come. And it wasn't until about 6 hours later that they showed up in their farmyard, and they asked them, well, why are you here now? And they said, well, we're here for supper. And they said, well, no, you're not. You're 6 hours late. Like, what happened? And they said, well, we just saw something in the field, and that's all they remember. And I mean, I guess this had happened quite a while ago, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I kind of want to start collecting more stories and talking to more people. And the night that I saw what I saw, there was actually other people that had seen, from a different perspective, but had seen something similar to what I had seen. So again, it's something that's a little bit more intriguing to me, but again, it is terrifying to me, and I don't know why it is completely terrifying to me, but I don't.
Well, I think anytime, you encounter something and you feel out of your element, it's that fear factor at first.
And the vulnerability.
Yeah, like you do. You feel so, vulnerable and very, again, like if it, to me, speaking from a scientific point of view, I mean, if they are able to create these amazing spaceships and they're interdimensional travelers or what they have for technology and how they think, it's so much more advanced than us. And I guess, I don't know if I'm afraid of getting hurt or maybe afraid of just being able to communicate with them. I don't know. It's exciting, but scary. Yeah.
Well, like even my Ouija board that I just shared, that did scare me for a while when I was young. And it wasn't until I started investigating these parallels between ufology and the paranormal. It seems so weird to separate them to me now. But,
Agreed.
I was always afraid of the boards, and it was like, I knew there was something there. So I had that standard. It's like, no, don't mess with them. Maybe a little bit of my former Catholic upbringing was still in my brain. But it wasn't until I really looked at it through the ufology lens where I was like, yes, I was freaked out, but there wasn't anything scary to it. They weren't like, ha, 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 were these spirits messing with you? We were talking with a lady. She described the other two spirits that were there. The one that walked upstairs, she was just like, yeah, he does stomp a lot, just kind of said it nonchalant, like how he is. And she did say the one that was opening my closet door every night at 2:30 in the morning said he did it because he knew I noticed it. So,
Yeah.
we're very just like bland. I didn't get like a foreshadowed warning or anything that freaked me out. The drums, yeah. And I did that still does get me. It's like there's that ability to manipulate the physical, I guess. But that's a crossover I've found in my research. You come across that with ufology. You know, how can they move people through walls? How can they appear and reappear and seem to pop in and out? You know, these are things that you find in the spirit world as well. So I'm just fascinated now. I look at it all as a vein of communication. Whether we interpret it or not, it's that contact. So
we got 2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes. You know, Alyson, I'll quickly tell you this one. One day I went to bed. I was having a dream. It was in the middle of winter. This was a couple of years ago, but I was dreaming like it was springtime. I was wearing my red shorts and a black shirt, and I was on the phone talking to a friend of mine in North Carolina in my dream, and I dropped my phone, and, you know, in typical dream fashion, you know, you pick up your phone, and I got it upside down and backwards, and he's like, hey, I can barely hear you, and I'm like, dude, there's like a disc flying in the sky, and it's coming towards me. I said, I don't want to go tonight. So anyways, as I start walking towards my carport, because I'm out on my driveway, to go inside, I realize that I'm starting to walk up towards the disc in the air, right? And I'm yelling at this. I told you I didn't want to go today. I told you I didn't want to go today. Next thing I know, I'm dropped from 3 feet above my bed into my bed, and I wake up as I'm falling. So yeah, that's kind of cool. Here we go with hour 2, guys.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. I am Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters as we are turning up the woo for this Halloween special. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I want to say thank you to everybody listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Cackle. Cackle is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue with the SOR Halloween special Paranormal Round Table. We have Ouija Board expert Karen A. Dahlman, Matt Lay, and Alyson Ford, the husband and wife tandem out of Saskatchewan. Yes, wave at them. They can see you anywhere in North America. It is that flat there. And all the way from Illinois, we have Nicole Sakach, who is a UFO researcher and assistant to Grant Cameron. Everybody, welcome back. Now, Nicole, you were telling us about your freakiest experience.
I was. And no, the Ouija board is up there with the drum playing, but I've come to grips with it over the decades. But, you know, honestly, Dave, I think you were part of my most recent freakiest experience, and that was my UFO experience weekend back in July, and it wasn't necessarily the sighting. It was getting the apport phenomenon and having the pile of rocks left for me on my table in my research spot. And yeah, that just took me aback because first of all, it was something new to my research, and it was something that I had heard of in the past, and I was just kind of rolled my eyes and, you know, scoffed at it. I was like, oh, this isn't happening. You know, there has to be a better explanation for these things. And then it was kind of a buildup. Like, I spoke with a couple people about it over the months, and I would receive a rock. One would fall into my sink at work, and I would hear it, and it would be there. And then, you know, after my sighting, and then to return home and have a pile there waiting for me, just knowing that something had manifested in my house or entered my house, and seeing my dog so scared. And at the same time, it was exciting though, because it was that affirmation. Like I said, that was like a clear message to me from them. Like, we know you saw us, we saw you too, kind of thing. That's how I've rationalized it. But yeah, it's just, this whole manifestation apport scenario just really kind of blows my mind right now. So
that is kind of weird and freaky. Mine would be probably, I know I have a spirit. It hasn't been active in a while, but in my house right now, I have a spirit that mimics my son. Yes, mimics my son. And going back, where I noticed it was a couple of years ago. My son was at daycare. This is going back 3 years ago now, because he's in grade 2. And so he was at daycare, and I was on the phone with a person who was working with me on Spaced Out Radio at that time. And I heard you know, when a child gets excited, they kind of scream and laugh at the same time. So I hear this scream and laugh upstairs, and I said to the person on the phone as she's talking, I said, "Did you hear that?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "What did you hear?" And she goes, "Well, it sounded like your son." I said, "Yeah, there's a problem. My son's not home. He's at daycare 10 minutes away." She goes, "No way." I said, "Yes." So we go upstairs. I take her on the phone because she's like, "Well, look around, make sure nobody's come home." So I take her to look around my house. Nobody is around. Just my dogs hanging on out. And go to daycare, pick up my son, and my friend is still on the phone with me. And I said to my son, "Can you please say hello and let our friend hear your voice?" And she goes, and so he goes, "Hi, how are you?" And she's like, "Oh my God, that's the voice we heard." I'm like, "Yep. Welcome to my world." And then a few months later, I was hanging out in the studio, and I knew it was getting close to dinner time, and I heard this little 3-tap knock, just a type of thing, and very, very low on the door, much like a kid would knock on the lower portion of the door. So I quickly got out of my studio chair, I snuck over to the door, and I was going to wing it open and yell, "Boo!" You know, scare my boy. And I do that, and nobody's there. So I go upstairs, I said to my daughter, I said, "Where's the boy?" And she goes, "On the couch." And I look over the couch, there he is, playing, watching like some, I think, Paw Patrol on his iPad. I said, "Was he just downstairs?" She's like, "No, he's been up here the whole time." She goes, "How long ago?" I'm like, 90 seconds ago. And she's like, "No, he's been on the couch." So I have a ghost in my house that mimics my son. It's kind of weird.
Woo.
Total woo.
Big time woo.
Huge woo.
You hear parents talk about that though, like when their kids are gone, or it's like they hear their child's voice, and you hear that talked about as being like a connection, you know, like a consciousness connection with parents and their children, mothers and sons. I hear, especially for some reason, I don't know, but I wonder if it's a connection like you hear your son when he's gone, or if it really is like I call them doppelgangers when they mimic like that. Is that the wrong phrase? But I don't know. Each weekend my son is gone, I swear I hear that, "Mom!" And I'm like, What? He's gone.
No kidding. No kidding. That just freaks me. Alyson, you're a mother. You ever had that with your child?
No, I haven't. I mean, as you guys are talking, I'm trying to like sort through like possible scenarios in my head. And one of the things I'm thinking about, well, is this like residual energy? Like, could it be, some type of a residual energy, like how we get from, other, when we investigate, we find out that it's maybe not, a conscious spirit, but some type of residual energy. But
like a playback.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Like it could possibly be that as well. But you also bringing up the mimicking effect. We have encountered spirits mimicking other spirits that we've had on different investigations.
Yeah. Do you have just a second to share that story?
Oh yeah, go right ahead, guys.
So we went on an investigation. It was a small location. It was well known to be a practical joke situation. The people, they didn't want us to disclose the location or anything about the house, but they wanted us to come in and investigate it because they said all these practical jokes was always happening. And they were blaming each other, and then they got to question whether or not it was paranormal or not. So they asked if we can come in. Well, it wasn't big enough for a whole team, so just a couple of us went. So I'm sitting in the living room, and I'm describing a situation that happened on our previous investigation where I was holding up a sigil, and all the power went out in the town, and of course I got blamed for it. But anyway, so while I'm telling the story, laughing about it, all of a sudden the lamp to my right flickers and goes out. And then it comes back on, and then the light in the living room area goes out and comes back on, and then the one in the hallway goes out, comes back on, then the one in the kitchen goes out and comes back on. And then the person sitting on the couch that I was telling the story to was gone, ran down the hallway, went to Mama Alyson, because she's the mama on every investigation, and I don't care how old you are, and it's like, and he was telling the story, and so of course it was a practical joker. It hears the story and going, hey, maybe I can get their attention. So, it was hilarious at the same time, and yes, that in that particular house, it would mimic the stories that we told. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit of a practical joker.
All right, let's shift gears here, because with all of us, we have people who will come up to us to say, I need help because something is terrorizing me, or something is bothering me in the middle of the night, or I'm dreaming of aliens, or I'm dreaming of ghosts, or being pinned down by shadow people. We've all had those people come up to us to say, what do we do? Karen, I want to bring you in here to discuss this for a minute in regards to it. When you've had somebody who has approached you asking for help, is there a story that you could share with us that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, I get that often. I get emails from people from all over the place talking about some of their more, I would say, not so positive experiences or negative experiences. But it's not just relegated to the Ouija board. I'll get people talk to me, like as you mentioned, just to like shadow people, for example. So I can remember back, here's a story from 2015. I was at WouijaCon speaking there, and one of the gals came up to me, and actually it was when I was on stage, she was asking me questions about it, and she said that she had some dark visitor came in her room at night. She could see him out of the corner of his eye. She used the term like shadow people. And she said that this being wouldn't leave, but he would come back like every single night. And she wasn't sure what to do about it. And until she finally, what she said was, she finally said, you don't have a right to be here. You need to leave. She got really stern with it and held her ground with it. And she said that was the first time she realized she could empower herself to affect change when something like this was happening. Because she had other kinds of experiences throughout her life, but I didn't have to even answer her. She was the one that took the bull by the horns and said, and this is what I ended up doing. And so when I talk to a lot of people, I love hearing their stories, because I think we all have our own unique filters and perceptions about how we view the world. And so we're going to see it very differently. And doesn't mean one story is right or wrong. It just means we all have our different experiences. So when I talk to people that have problems, when they're not feeling very comfortable with anything spiritual or metaphysical or supernatural, or just down out strange and full of woo, I always ask them to look back to what can they do in that moment. Is it a matter of just turning around and leaving? Is it a matter of confronting? Is it a matter of waiting till later? Is it a matter of putting white light around themselves? Is it a matter of saying a prayer? What is it they can do? And so I try to help people really empower themselves. And that's typically where all my conversations go when they have some kind of terrible thing happening.
Do you recall a story or an encounter that you had with someone, Karen, that really kind of caught you off guard? Now, I realize professionals like you or Matt and Alyson, you're beyond that point of being rattled, but every now and again we do get that story from someone that they share that is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I've been rattled a few times, actually, and some have to do with extraterrestrial energy or sometimes I want to just say it's the unknown. Do I label it? Maybe I labeled it. It's this energy that I'm not aware of that comes into the room, and I can feel it and sense it and not quite figure out what it is. I've had those experiences. I've had apparitions pop up that freak me out in the moments when I'm not even trying to do any kind of paranormal investigation, or I'm not even looking for it, and they've popped up and scared the bejesus out of me, where it's literally sent me shooting through the room. So I've had quite a few experiences like that. Let me see if I can think of one specific one that I could share with you guys. Yeah, I don't know if I want to get into that one. I've had some really interesting encounters with, I would say, interdimensionals that not necessarily negative, but just scary. Just kind of spooky, not sure how to interpret it. I do remember one time I was using the Ouija board, and this goes back to, let's see, I want to say 85, 86. I think it's more like 85-ish. And I remember one time on the board, and I get great experiences on the board. I've been using the board for 47 years, and it's been really an incredible tool for me. I use it more for self-development and personal growth. But in the earlier years, 73 through about 85, 86, I didn't understand that. So 85, I was working with the board with my brother. One of my brothers is really good at using the board. And we were sitting down and I think we were at that time communicating with one of my spirit guides named Wilma Jean. And all of a sudden a new energy came through, and the energy started cussing me out. I could feel it. It was strong. It was like trying to fight me and saying, at that time I was studying psychology in school and in college. And they said, "Oh, who do you think you are? A psychologist?" And just spelling this out. And I just said, "Enough." My brother goes, "What?" I just put the board down, threw down this planchette, and I said, "Enough." He goes, "Yeah, that's kind of stupid." I go, "You know what? Just what I teach all my clients or people that come to me now." I said, that's it. I'm not going to put up with this. So I spoke out loud and I said, "Hello, whoever you are, you have no right to be here. I'm taking back this board, my tool, who I am and who I'm communicating with. Bye-bye, go away." And I wiped the board off ceremonially, just ritualistically with my shirt. He's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm wiping it off. It's like I'm doing it ceremonially. I'm just going to make something happen here." Didn't know what I was doing. Put the board back down, and then we went right back to the spirit guides and different beings I was talking to. So I find in moments like that, it was me really standing up to that, into that energy and facing it head on. And even if I'm scared, which I was a little like, "Oh, what do you do?" I just did it naturally. So I think that's a technique that works for me the best. And I try to help people to empower themselves too if they come into those kind of positions.
All right, Nicole, let's get to you here, because there's a lot of spooky, scary stories that you have heard, especially in the UFO world, as you have, really encompassed that over the last couple of years. What's a story that really sets you back that you have been told?
Oh, I do frequent a lot of what I call experiencer groups online, and people seem to be more forthcoming with that certain amount of anonymity that they can have instead of being face to face. It's almost like a confessional at church. Some people decide to go face to face. Some people feel better behind the screen. And speaking with what I'll call new abductees, or people who are finally trying to dive in and really figure it out or accept it, there's a lot of fear that's involved in those beginning moments. And they always take me aback, because I've never felt like I was abducted with the contact that I've had. So I can't really put myself in their shoes. But talking with the same people over the course of even a few months to years, and you follow along with how they're coping with it and dealing with it and the help that they seek, and how they're able to turn like a scary moment scenario. And like you said, it's all about trying to interact with your phenomenon and empowering yourself to take control of a situation, and just knowing that people can change their experience from something they view as negative, or even have the beings change from something they find scary to maybe something more on the angel side of beings. And to me, that's just fascinating. You know, what starts as fear, I've seen transform. And yeah, I encourage people to follow their synchronicities and try to close that loop. And I'm really good at knowing what's out of my level of expertise. And I often refer people to others that I think have a better knowledge base than I do. But it does always start with that. You can take care of this. You know, you do have a say in what's going on. You know, get your headscape about you and I'll help you. You know, it's all about help in this community, I think. Nobody ever turns anybody away. It's more like, I might not know what's going on, but I'll help you figure it out the best I can. So.
All right, Alyson, have you had anybody approach you with a spooky story that just kind of caught you off guard? Could you tell us that story?
Yeah, I mean, I get messages all the time, especially through the past page. And of course, this time of the year, it just kind of ramps up even more. Again, with Halloween and you know, everyone's having their own woo-woos. But it's hard. I mean, there's some people who have absolutely terrifying stories. A lot of times it involves, you know, spirit, you know, interacting with their family, and maybe not in the greatest of ways, especially when it comes to your children. And again, this is coming, you know, being a parent. You know, if someone's, I don't care if it's like you know, a kid at school that's screwing with your kid, you know, you feel that anger, but also, you know, it scares you. It makes, you know, it gets you angry. And of course, now bring the paranormal aspect into it. Something's trying to interact with your child. Yeah, it gets really scary. You know, it's happened. You know, our daughter had experienced something, and you know, it was basically, we could explain it, you know, from a previous place that we had lived. It probably was this person just, you know, like, what are you doing, and, you know, laying in my spot kind of thing. And she told me about that, and it had scared her. And it does scare me a little bit, because again, it's your child, and you don't really want something interacting with your child. But you know, for the most part, it's, you do try to help people, but there are times like, you know, you can't help some people. You have to refer them to others for help. And again, it is an ownership thing, but that always doesn't work sometimes either. I honestly, you know, I don't ever tell people that I have all the answers to their questions. And I do try to help them figure things out. But like scariest scenarios, you know, just most of the time it's, you know, people getting scratched, or people getting, you know, injured or touched physically by something that they don't see. And it is disconcerting, because it has happened to me. But again, there's just quite a few stories about that nature.
It can get a little tedious at times, because sometimes you just don't have the answers, which is true.
Right.
We're going to get you guys to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We have the SOR Roundtable hanging on out tonight with us. Nicole Sakach, UFO researcher. Ouija Board expert, Karen A. Dahlman. Husband and wife paranormal team, Matt Lay and Alyson Ford. And of course, my beautiful mug is hanging out here as well. More Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. All right, there we go. We are clear. All right. Let's do something here. I got a plan here. I'm going to keep this a little secret. We're going to call the Scoreboard Lounge and ask Brittany how things are going.
Oh, no.
That's great.
Hold on. Here we go. See if they pick up. Might be loud in there. They might be busy.
Or they're just too
The
drunk
person
to
you have
answer.
dialed can't take your call now. At the tone, please
that's
record your
perfect.
message. When you have finished
Well, that's
recording,
just
simply...
terrible. That's just
Oh,
terrible. Hey, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, we're trying to call your bar, and nobody's picking up.
Yeah, that's not good for business.
Not good for business at all. Let me make sure I got the right number here. Hold on.
They probably can't find the phone.
All right.
There's 8 of them.
Let's try again here. Let's try again. Hi, EM. How you doing, man? Come on. Just fingers crossed. Come on, pick
We
up.
should all call him.
Come on. You know, we're all sitting here with anticipation right now. Are they going to pick up? Are they not?
They're probably picking up, there's a bunch of different phones right now.
The person you have dialed can't take your call now. At the
What? It's busy. Huh?
I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not calling from a Canadian number.
Oh.
You know what? Hold on. I'll call from my cell phone. Hold on here.
There you go.
See if we can get this thing going here.
Do they have, is there an official SOR
it's-
drink?
I don't know. I don't
It's a
know.
bat line.
Let's see how this goes.
Phoenix Scoreboard, how can I help you?
Hi, is Brittany there?
Is who?
Brittany.
Nope, Brittany's not here.
Oh, is Rob around?
I'm sorry?
Is Rob around?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, have a good
Bye.
night.
Well, there's a party going on there.
It is.
Yeah. But apparently, they're not there. It's a different staff tonight.
Mm.
Mm.
I think you have to come up with a special SOR drink.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Mm.
Well, we'll have to. We'll have to. All right. We have 2 minutes to go here. 2 minutes to go. And we will be hanging on out. This is fun. This is a fun show tonight.
It's always fun.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I can't wait till we can come to BC and see your place and
Yeah, come on over.
hang out with the aliens.
You can always hang out with the aliens, man. Always hang out with the aliens. That works for me.
think they're always around.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny because I was talking to my my personal guru this evening, and for the past couple of weeks, I've kind of been feeling like I got to get back in touch. I just need to get back in touch.
Well, we need to drag you down here to the new building You soak this in.
Well, you know what? I do have to talk to you guys about something.
Okay.
Well, Matt and Alyson, because Merle and I are working on something, and I wanted to kind of grab your attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Merle always ears.
Always got time for Merle. All day, all night.
Well, he's probably getting tired of me sending him my theories and new crazy inventions. Actually, now I have a new team to help me develop these new devices. So.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We got 15 seconds. Thank you to Gorgeous Jules for the super chat tonight. It's a great way to support this show. If you're new, we'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or down, whatever you feel like we deserve. And here we go with the second half of the show. Second half of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Dave Scott here, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue with the SOR Roundtable tonight as we are talking all weird, strange stories from these great, talented people. Karen Dahlman joins us every Halloween as she is our resident Ouija Board expert. We have Matt Lay and Alyson Ford, paranormal investigators out of Canada. They are two of the best across this country. They're in Saskatchewan. Nice and flat there. Their dog ran away once. They found it 4 days later, just out their window by watching. And we have Nicole Sakach, UFO researcher and assistant to Grant Cameron. Everyone, welcome back.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
Now, Matt, over the years that you have talked to a lot of people about their own experiences, and people have come to you for help trying to explain what is going on, what is one of the strangest stories that you have had told to you?
So I'm going to give you a strange and comical one. So like Alyson said, when it comes to children, the hackles come up and it becomes a priority. And somebody said that their child was deathly scared of what it kept seeing in the hallway, and it was scaring the crap out of him. And the mother had seen it too, and so usually what we do is we do an initial interview because a lot of times just open communication, you can learn a lot, and rather than making assumptions. And so we go in, we're having this, and you could tell they're physically scared out of their minds. So we start going through the house, and according to the descriptions, that obviously what happens is a lot of people see these TV shows and immediately want to classify it as something far worse because the TV shows feed their fears, and they can manifest as fears. So we're trying to calm them down and get the information. So we asked if we could just go around the house and check a few things, and we're looking at this particular point, we're checking for high EMF fields because if a person is hypersensitive or in any type, fashion, or form, it can cause hallucinations, nausea, those type of traits. And so this is where the part not so comical yet comical comes into play. So we're going around the house, and I'm at a location directly underneath the child's bedroom, closer to the area where everybody keeps seeing this figure. And it's over 8,000 milligauss of EMF radiating through copper tubing directly underneath there, which is extremely harmful for anybody. And so I called the mother down and I said, this area right here, you need to get an electrician in here because this washer and dryer, it really should be unplugged. It's not healthy. And she says, well, I can't unplug them. The landlord will be mad. And she goes, well, wait a second. You mean to tell me it's not a demon or a ghost or anything? And I said, no, it's this electrical equipment is actually interrupting the brain waves, and it's causing all these symptoms that you're having. And she goes, oh, thank goodness it's not a ghost. I'm like, wait, you're in a microwave right now, you know. So they moved from the house, you know, the last report we got, and they never had any other occurrences. But it's a lot of times in these situations are either projected fears or, you know, where they're feeding off of their own fears and they project it out, like similar in 1987-ish, I'm guessing. I had a fun high school year, so I don't know. But in this particular case, everybody was horrified in the house, and it was a child, like what we're discussing earlier with the imaginary friend, but was manifesting this more and more and more with projected will, and got to the point where they thought they had a poltergeist, and it turned out it was nothing more than just the child manifesting these things happening. And so with all these different occurrences, you know, the biggest thing is to explain to them communication, respect, and take charge. And you know, we all agree on those, but it's you have to empower them. But with these different occurrences that happen, unfortunately, media feeds that hype, you know, feeds the fear, because what's the first thing they do before they ask for advice? They flip to a channel to watch for, you know, well, this is something similar to what I'm going through. He said it's a demon. So now all this has become far greater than what it actually is. So there's a lot of different ones that we've had that, you know, that we could explain, you know, that were not as severe. But the biggest thing is to empower them for not only communication, but also to take a step back and openly discuss what was going on.
Very true. Very true. Let's shift topics here, because one of the scariest topics that I think is in the paranormal is when we deal with child spirits. I don't think there's anything freakier than that panel. All right? I'll give you an example. I lived in a haunted house with my ex-wife. We knew we had a child spirit in the house. Our kids would be gone, you know, to Grandma and Grandpa's for the night, and we'd hear our daughter's bedroom door squeak open and the pitter-patter of little feet running down the hallway, and then jumping on our bed because we couldn't afford a good bed back then. And we had a real squeaky bed. And you would hear the child jumping up and down on our bed, much like it was a trampoline. But one of the things that freaked me out, because I had seen her and my ex-wife had seen her as well. All right? And she was a little girl, maybe 3 years old. She wore a white nightie. She had long ringlet hair, very pudgy cheeks. I could still see her when I just talk about her. But the one time that freaked us out, when we finally decided that we were moving out of that place, we had our bathroom and then our towel closet right beside it. We were wiping down the towel closet, you know, cleaning everything up. And from the bathroom right beside us, we hear, "Mommy." And we looked at each other, and I said, "Did you hear that?" My ex-wife goes, "I'm out of here. I'm never coming back." And to this day, when we used to drive by that place, you could still see the little girl looking out the window. Scared the daylights out of me every time. Do you, Alyson? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. No, I was just adding to that. Like, for me, like, I mean, I try to think about like how spirit communicates. So is there really a child spirit, or is this, after we leave a physical body, we're really ageless. We don't have an actual physical age to us. Maybe this is the way of that spirit feels comfortable and trying to get your attention or trying to communicate. So, they're able to visualize, make themselves visible at a certain age to communicate. So I on investigation, I don't always necessarily take, if people are seeing a child spirit, I don't treat them like they're children per se, because a lot of times I feel that it could just be, it's just a spirit manifesting itself in a particular way to communicate. But again, anytime that we have encountered something that could have been like a child spirit, I guess being a mom, it kind of breaks my heart in a way. I get very, very emotional. Because again, being a parent, having a 9-year-old daughter, and I mean, if it is to the point where they are stuck at a physical age for whatever reason, a child without their parent, I mean, it's heartbreaking. I've never found it really terrifying, but anybody that we've ever done investigation for, children, dolls, that's another huge one that people get very terrified about.
But to add to that, and this is a lesson learned from me, and what we thought a location had a child spirit, but it was actually little people.
Oh, yeah.
And because I thought the little people legends were more, like Icelandic or even in Ireland. And, there's stories all over the world about the proverbial little people, but there's also all across Canada and the United States, and whatever the name for each culture is. But so in this case, it was little people. We noticed the characteristics matched identical to the other regions of the world, and we realized it wasn't a child. It's still, and I'm going to stand right behind you, Dave, and say it was a little on the freaky side, but still the aspect of it being a child, it started to fade when we started to piece that together and realize all the legends of the little people, especially with like the Cree and different groups, it fit perfectly with the other legends around the world.
Very true. Karen, how many times have you had to deal with child spirits through the spirit box?
Spirit box or spirit board?
Sorry, spirit board. I apologize.
No worries. We've paired the spirit box using the Ouija board before. I've done those experiments before, but several times they've come through. People have also talked about seeing kids before, and I agree with what everybody else was saying too. For me, I feel too. I'm not so much freaked out by it. It's sad, I guess, when we put it in perspective of, it's a young child that died and maybe something tragic happened to them and they're stuck there in a loop. Somebody mentioned that in the chat room, stuck in a time loop and they can't get out. And and in our feelings, we project our own feelings onto that, and that's what makes it sad for us. We can surely feel those feelings from a human point of view. We get that. But I also I'm actually more sad about the animals when I come across some of the animals that had maybe not the best background to how they were killed or pushed into the next dimension. And so those actually get me more freaked out. I probably get more emotional about that. I'm really close to the animals, and I do speak to animals. I do animal communication with and without the board, and that's something that I think pulls at my heartstrings more than anything. But yes, I think when anybody that has a story and it's a sad story, or like you said, Dave, they're jumping on your bed, you can almost sense that poor child wants to play and doesn't get to play anymore. It's not in physical form. It pulls at our heartstrings. But one of the things that I always look at in terms of just a spiritual reference is that I really feel like in my book of beliefs, I really feel like we have many lives to live, and I really believe in reincarnation, and that there's always a purpose and a reason maybe why we only live so long. And I try to not get so caught up in that, although I can feel that pain. And I, by the way, when I use the board, I feel all the energies coming through. I can feel the emotions of people asking the questions and the responses. I take it all in as a like an empath, and I feel all that. But I also try to separate myself from it a little bit so I can get more of an objective opinion, or just to separate from it and try to see for what it is. But I do believe that we have so many different lives that and experiences that we have to experience all these things ourselves, such as dying at a young age, or being killed, or in a car wreck, or in a fire, or even good things too. And so when I look at it from that perspective, I can just look at it more objectively and try not to get so caught up in it. That's when I'm doing like research, paranormal research. But when I'm just in the moment of the session, yeah, it pulls at my heartstrings too.
How about for you, Nicole? Have you ever had to deal with a child spirit?
Thank God, no. No, never. It like, I don't know, like you guys were just saying, it either like saddens me so bad to even think about it. And as a parent, I will say what gets me is when you deal with ufology, the theme always comes up that contact is generational or can happen with family units and groups. And, you know, when my son was born, I had a few terrifying moments, thinking thoughts, you know, that I wouldn't be able to help him, or, you know, how could I help him understand what could be possibly going on with him that's unexplainable. And I just really had to find a lot of comfort in researching and trying. I mean, I kind of went overboard and got my hands on anything that I could, but I find just kind of that self-education kind of gives me some form of comfort when you can compare and contrast like what everybody is saying in this field and how they work through it. So I don't know. And it goes back to that empowerment feeling, you know, you have to take control of your situation. And it terrifies me more now that parents out there would choose to leave their children in the dark, or like, not that I have any ill will by it, but when I went to adults with what I experienced, I was always told, oh, it wasn't what you thought, or, you know, we don't believe in superstition, or you must have just been dreaming. Like, I don't know. That's what scares me. It's like, why can't we jump that hurdle and speak to our children about the strange? And I don't know. It terrifies me that children would grow up lost in this.
Very true.
Instead of having somebody to help them. So my fears are very practical, I guess. And no, I mean, I hope I don't ever encounter a child spirit. And if I do, I'll help the best that I can. But I don't know. I tend to believe, like she just said, that there's this reincarnation element. And, you know, listen to how we're talking. I think it's similar in spirit on the other side. You know, there's a process. There's people there. They're not going to leave children abandoned, even if we're talking about a young spirit as a child, not an actual kid. You know, we're all children when we pass over.
Very true. Very true. Let's get into monsters here, because it wouldn't be a Halloween section if we didn't talk about monsters, Karen Dahlman, as we got about 5 minutes left before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Have you ever encountered, through all of your investigations, any strange monsters, whether they're from the spirit realm or whether they are from the physical realm, such as Bigfoot, Dogman, or whatever?
Now, this is some real woo we're getting into.
Let's do this.
All right. So, my experience, I have not seen Sasquatch. I was told by Bigfoot they don't want to be called Bigfoot. They like to be called Sasquatch.
But I've not seen one, and I've not seen Dogman either, but I know people who have, and I know, Dave, you're one of them. And I definitely listen to their stories they have to say. Now, I have had some interdimensional beings that I've encountered. When you say monsters, it's like, that just sounds so scary. And it is, because we can't explain what they are. And I've gotten so used to having such kooky things happen in my life that I'm kind of used to it now. But when I was a child, I was not used to it. And I will say this. I had these beings that used to come in my room at night. And it was when I was, I guess, less inhibited, because I was trying to sleep, but I would have these terrible nightmares and wake up and see these beings walking around my room. And to me, I didn't know what they were. They were short, about 3 foot tall, that had big eyes that would look at me, and they would chase me in my dreams. And when I wake up from the dream, they would stand there staring at me. And I was like, what are these things? Now, this was back in 1973, 74. And it wasn't until 1981 when Whitley Strieber came out with his book, Communion. And I saw the cover of that book, and I went, OMG, that's what they were. So I didn't know. I would call those monsters when I was like 7 and 8. But when I realized what they were later on, we get more perspective as we get older. It still scared the heck out of me, but I realized they were actually little grays. So they're not monsters anymore, and I've come more to terms with them, but it scared the heck out of me, because I didn't know what they were. And I would say we call things monsters that we can't quite understand. We would have called Bigfoot maybe years ago, Sasquatch many years ago, a monster, or we would call Dogman a monster. And now we're calling them more cryptids and interdimensional beings. We might even call it a mermaid a monster, because it was outside of what we would understand, what we're told to believe that things really do exist. So I've opened my mindset and take my blinders off to see that there's so many things out there that's way beyond our eyes, that are into other areas that our apparatus of our eyes, our senses cannot take in, yet that they exist, and we might still call those monsters, but yet they're probably not.
What's the strangest monster you have encountered outside of those aliens? Karen?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just muted for a second. I didn't mean to. Say that again, Dave.
What's the strangest monsters that you have communicated with?
Okay, so I have not shared this with anybody yet. I did this thing. I went to Sedona not too long ago. No, let's say it's been about 3 years now. It seems like it was yesterday. But I did this experiment in Sedona when I started working with the labyrinth and working on opening my heart and really working hard on balancing my heart to my mind, to my pineal gland. I've been working on decalcifying it for years. But also then that's literally by certain foods and certain things I was doing, but also emotionally, mentally, and spiritually really connecting my heart to my mind. And it's allowed me to open up my gifts of channeling, where I could bring in spirits, the guides, to communicate directly through voice or through telepathy or through my hand, through automatic writing. And so when I went to Sedona, I wanted to connect back with these other beings that came into my life as a young child, which I used to call the large ones, the great ones, the tall ones. They were this huge energy that would come to me, and it looked like a giant light, and it would stand there, and I just felt this wonderful love flow over me and envelop me, and I always felt so happy when they came around. I was scared of the little beings, the little, which I call ETs and grays now, but the big ones I wasn't afraid of. So I went to Sedona with the intention of really connecting with them again. And I walked this labyrinth at Angel Valley, Sedona, which is a very powerful place. And I just asked to make that connection with my heart to my mind and connect with those beings again. So something happened. I felt the shift. I felt energies around me. So I go back home, and about a week later, I decided to do a meditation. I thought, let's get on the board. And I was with my board partner, Rodney, who you mentioned earlier. And I just wanted to explore a little bit about seeing if I could tap into them. So I spoke to the guides, who I always talk to on the board. And they brought through, we have a new guest that wants to speak to you. I said, okay, who is it? And they said, well, this guest would like to talk to you more through telepathy, but he would like to come now through the board. And I said, okay. And they said, so we will step aside now. And who came through was a new group of beings. You would call them the giants. They are at least 15 feet tall. Some are only 13 feet tall. They live in a whole other dimension on another planet, and they have no eyes. All they use is their pituitary gland, which is their eye. They have an inner eye, and that's how they see. And what they've taught me, well, they've been working with me for 3 years now. They come to me and teach me how to use my inner eye, my third eye. And I can see them in my mind's eye. I don't see them physically out here, but they talk to me telepathically.
Oh, strange.
No, it gets way out there.
Well,
and they do talk to me on the board, too.
Let's hear that strange woo when we come back on Spaced Out Radio, because we do have to go to break here at the top of the hour. We have Karen Dahlman, Nicole Sakach, Matt Lay, Alyson Ford, all here on the SOR Paranormal Round Table. We'll be back right after this. All right, guys, we're clear. I'm going to just step away for a minute.
Okay, take the dogs out.
You just chat away to our YouTube audience.
I need a little potty break, and I'll be right back, you guys.
Okay. Well, we're here. We can see you from here. That sounded kind of creepy, though. Yeah.
We can see everybody from here.
Yeah. You see everything.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else out there on YouTube land, this time of the year, things start to ramp up, or what you believe. A lot of people believe that this time of the year, Samhain, Halloween, the veils are thinning. So things are getting, it's easier to notice. And again, I don't know why, if we're getting more, phone calls, more texts, because people are more aware of it just because they know it is Halloween, or because the veils are thinning. Yeah, it's definitely a busy time of the year for us. And personally, I do notice more things. I am pretty aware of things all the time, but I do notice a few more things happening. Lately, it seems like a yearly thing now around this time. I'm in the kitchen, and we're in a different place now than we were before, but it seems that there's always someone standing behind me, and I have to turn around really quick because I think it's my husband, and he's always playing jokes on me. But I turn around, and nobody's there. So again, it's a really fun time of the year, that people are just more aware of the paranormal, supernatural, multidimensional. We talk about that a lot now too. It's good, and I think we all need to, it's important to share stories with each other, and
that's how we grow and learn.
Grow and learn, keep an open mind, and even just by listening to each other, we can help each other out. But programs like this are I think really important, and a lot of times it's people don't even want an investigation. They just want someone to talk to, and a safe place and a safe ear that they can share their experience. And it could be the craziest story ever, but I will listen to you. And a lot of times it's with, next to zero judgment. If anything, I'm, maybe trying to figure out what it could be, rationally, but there's times I've been told stories that I honestly couldn't even begin to rationalize what it could be. So.
Guys, I just stepped back in here.
Hello.
Hi. I kind of caught a little bit of what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's really important, again, with having programs like this, or sharing stories and experiences with one another, because again, I think a lot of times it's just people just need to talk. They just need to have that safe ear to be able to tell their story, and
they don't feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think you can feel isolated. And again, I think that's, in a way why I haven't really been forward with my experience with having the UFO sighting and that, because I don't want to feel judged. And again, because I am a paranormal investigator, I don't want people thinking right away, well, oh, you're just making up some story. And but
Yeah, it's like a razor's edge in a sense. I mean, I had all these experiences, and I have so many more that I just don't even talk about. It's just so far out there. It just seems like a lot of woo-woo, and I hear that a lot from people. But this is an opportunity to talk about some of these things, like you said, and I'm thankful for that. But I have to say, like I said, I've been doing the Ouija board for 47 years, and I've been seeing this stuff since the age of 2, and I've just always been so open. Although I try to shut it down, it's come back in greater ways in the last, let's say, 30, 40 years. It's crazy how much has come back to me, and so I've kept it quiet. I didn't even come out into the public with what I do, and even the Ouija board or anything, or these beings I'm talking about tonight, until 2012. It was like, I really, like you said, I was really afraid of being judged. And I also am a businesswoman. I have a company, and I'm also a psychotherapist. And there's a lot of things I was doing that I could lose my license, or I could be ridiculed in my industry in which I communicate and do my work and as a consultant. And I finally said, you know what? I'm at a time in my life where I don't care anymore. And so that allowed me, it freed me up. And then I get some weird responses, and I let them slide off of me, because it's like, I finally learned, to me, I don't have to prove anything anymore. I'm just here to share. And if people want to tell their stories, I love hearing them for that reason too, because I think we all have our own way of experiencing and viewing this life. And as I mentioned before, it's based on our beliefs, filters, perceptions, and how we were raised. And therefore, our stories are going to be from different angles. Doesn't mean one's wrong or right. It just means we have different perspectives of seeing the world. And that, to me, is incredible, because the world, there's so much more out there than meets the eye. Seriously.
All right, guys, here we go. 5 seconds as we kick off hour number 3 of the show.
Done. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Cackle. Cackle is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We bring in the panel for the SOR Roundtable, where we're talking spooky, scary stories all night long. Why? Because it's Halloween. And we are joined tonight by Matt Lay and Alyson Ford, the husband and wife team. They are researching the paranormal out of the province of Saskatchewan. We have Karen Dahlman, Ouija Board expert, and Nicole Sakach, UFO researcher and assistant to Grant Cameron. Everyone, welcome back.
Thank you.
We were talking monsters right beforehand. If we've had to deal with monsters regarding the paranormal. And Karen, you were telling a story that we had to cut you off there.
Well, just to finish up that story, what I want to say, there's so much more to tell you about it, and that would take too long. But I want to say, so I started working with these beings, and they've been teaching me how to open my third eye, and my goodness, it's working. I am starting to see so many things that I hadn't seen in many years are starting to come back, and then some new ones, including orbs and other kinds of beings and triangle crafts and all those things you guys were talking about earlier and other things beyond that. But I asked them, I said, what should I call you? And they said, well, we want to tell you, since we have no eyes, we don't have like physical eyes like you have. They said at one time we used to walk amongst the land of your people, and we had one eye. I said, one eye? Like a cyclops? They said, you can call us Psi, C-Y. But we will tell you this, in our culture today, if one of our own is born with eyes, we celebrate and honor that being. Although their eyes will not work, they said we celebrate because it reminds us of our past. At one time, too, we had 2 physical eyes, went down to 1, and went to none. And most of us, if not all of us, 99.9%, do not have physical eyes. We all see with our inner eye. And that's what they're teaching me to do. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Alyson, what kind of monsters have you dealt with?
I always joke because I always say that the worst monsters I ever have encountered have been actually like physical people, unfortunately.
So true.
I know it's so sad to say that, but it is really, it seems to be true that way. You know, you do hear the stories, and you know we've had, you know, stories around the province and the indigenous stories of monsters, and you know, everything from, you know, Bigfoot to different types of monsters in our lakes and all those stories. Unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to do any research into cryptids and be able to experience them. I mean, one of my personal fears is actually ocean monsters. I don't like being in large bodies of water, you know, not being able to see it below the surface. I mean, that's quite terrifying. The monsters, I like to look at it as a perceptions thing. You know, what someone might deem a monster would not be a monster to me. So yeah, sorry, I don't really have any great stories about that, but I mean, you do hear the stories and in around your province, and they're fascinating. I would like to have that opportunity to do more research.
Oh, absolutely. You got the Wendigo way up there in the northern part. Mm-hmm. You got to go searching for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even closer to home, there was some, you know, good video of, you know, a Bigfoot, Sasquatch type, and I think around the Lumsden area. Again, it's, you know, it's half one way, half another. Some people are saying, you know, this is absolutely true. Some people are like, no, this is a total hoax. You know, but it's all around us here too, and you know, there has to be some type of merit in it. You know, it's especially when there's multiple people seeing the same thing. I mean,
absolutely. Let's go over to you, Nicole. I know it'll probably be something to do with aliens, but let's talk about it.
Well, aside from the seasonal giant spiders that seem to come out every fall around this time of year in Illinois, like these hand-sized brown ones that just go, ah, it's a monster spider. That's the physical thing, I guess I could say. And to woo it up a little bit, because, you know, I don't like to go here at all, I can't really say I've encountered a monster in my paranormal or ufology. I've kind of walked that line of belief of, with the phenomenon, it manifests itself accordingly to your consciousness, and more so maybe you kind of get what you ask for. So once I kind of realized that, it's like this cautionary thing. It's like, you know, I've never considered myself to see a true scary being, like you guys mentioned, you know, encountering grays, and it's a theme that Whitley Strieber's book like brought this out, this cover. It like rang true for a lot of people, as in like, hey, this thing has a name now. And there it is. So I think I've had an advantage there of kind of preparing my psyche, you know, and the times that I have asked beings, because I know they're there to show themselves, it's been very elusive. Like I got to see almond eyes once, but I couldn't say, you know, I saw an entire gray or ET. But monster wise, I will say what I've truly hits home for me is not so much a being, but maybe listening to your intuition and knowing, like feeling that vibrational shift and knowing something isn't right or something isn't good. And I encountered that in a person once, and it was a criminal person. I was a juror, actually. And he was already in prison, and he was being tried for other things. And I was a part of this jury for 6 months or 6 weeks. And all throughout the 6 weeks, it's like you said, when you encounter that energy, it's like I would get headaches when he would walk in the courtroom, and like feel that like almost vibrational dip or shift. And it's like feel queasy. And another place that really hit home for me like that, or energy I felt, was the one time I was in New Orleans, and actually I was passing through New Orleans, and I was like, oh, I gotta stop somewhere on Bourbon Street. I'm never going to be back here. And walking through this section in the French Quarter, it was just like this vibration shift and a dip, and it felt really low, like something was there, not something good and energetic, like, hey, you know, let's interact. It was like ominous, I guess I could say. So not necessarily monsters, beings, but that energy.
Probably the darkest thing that I have encountered was, once again, in a night dream. And this one actually tripped me out a little bit because I actually met up with myself on a different dimension. And going there, it was really, really dark. It almost looked like, what's the movie? Sin City, where everything is kind of like that black and white, but it's in color at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And here I was, and I was in this old American town, like small town with the old like Western style building fronts and everything. And it was rainy and it was cloudy and it was, you know, pretty moist out. And I see this guy walking on the corner, and I walk up to him because I'm trying to find a hotel or something and can't find it. And there's this guy standing in the street lamp, underneath the street lamp, and he's dressed in all black jeans, black leather jacket, black T-shirt. Hair is all wet from, you know, standing outside. And I walk up to him and I realize that it's me. And he had this really dark voice, you know, and I remember him saying, "You shouldn't be here. You're not supposed to be here." And basically, I remember him saying, "If you weren't me, I would kill you right now." But I think he knew that if he killed me, he'd kill himself too. It was the strangest dream and the darkest dream that I've had in a long, long time. And that happened about 2-3 years ago. It was absolutely odd and dumbfounding. To this day, I don't know whether it was just a dream or whether I went to a different dimension and met up with the dark self that I think each and every one of us has, that maybe lives on a different plane or a different dimension or a portal or something along those lines. I don't know. But I know that it rattled me to the point that I still remember it.
Amazing.
Matt, how about you?
Before I get to I actually do have a very horrific story of a monster, actually several. It happened at 2:00 in the morning, but I want to point out, even the goetics, in way you're describing that, it sounds similar to shadow work that is often practiced, to face your inner demons and to come to terms with those, but also along the terms with, let's say, like goetics. A lot of times when they're doing evocations or things like that, some of these particular entities are horrific in an appearance, so by definition would be monstrous. And they take charge and they command that they appear in a more pleasant form. I'm not a fan of the word command, but that's their term. But to get to this particular story, it was while I was in Georgia, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I just suddenly had this urge, and this is in rural Georgia, lots of woods and very dark, so at 2 o'clock in the morning, I went to a Walmart.
Oh no.
And that's where I saw the worst monsters.
Woo, that's scary. Boo.
So my point is that it's a perception thing. And when I was younger, I was chasing after Bigfoot and everything else. And I was scared out of my mind, because I was so young, and it was going to be a monster that I was going to find. And no matter what the case, it could have been the most gentlest person in the world, but because I was young and I was driven by fear to find this, it was going to be a monster no matter what. So the perception is when fear overtakes us, when we're seeking, no matter what it is, it's going to be a monster that we find.
Especially at Walmart.
Yes.
I'm
at
going
2
there
o'clock
tonight.
in the morning.
You have to admit though, Canadian Walmarts aren't as scary as American ones.
Oh no, we've got scary, spooky ones down here. It's fun.
I have to psych myself up every time I'm gonna go to Walmart. It's like, okay, go to Walmart in 2 days. Like,
yes, you're bringing out all the sage and Palo Santo wood to literally smudge yourself before going in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Around here these days, it's like you have to go in full battle gear too to make sure you can get a roll of toilet paper and.
Or you can just blend in and wear some fuzzy slippers and some pajama pants.
Hey, I'm one of those monsters there at Walmart.
Well, in Georgia, it was cowboy boots and shorts, and but anyway.
All right, we continue on with the SOR Paranormal Round Table here tonight. You know, Matt, I want to start with you on this one because, for a lot of people around this time of year, we all get interested in the paranormal. We all get interested in wanting to get a little spooky, a little weird, and tell a ghost story, so on and so forth. And for the majority of people out there, they have no idea what they are conjuring. They have no idea what they are getting into. They're just doing their part to try and get some spookiness due to the season. And there's a lot of people out there who don't understand the dangers of it all. You are someone who has made this kind of a protocol of your life in trying to teach people about the paranormal and, the good and bad about it. So when it comes to this time of year when people are playing around, whether it's seances, Ouija boards, going into cemeteries, just trying to, download a couple of ghost apps to try and see if they could get some sort of communication, whatever it may be, what's the reality of it all for people who've never done this before?
Well, those are, by definition, those are enthusiasts. They're not paranormal investigators. They're just enthusiasts. They enjoy the sudden drop on the roller coaster and everything else. But, when people are doing things like that, a lot of times they manifest on their own. And these are things that are actually, when they're doing it, they're like, oh, it followed me home. No, you're carrying it home because you manifested it. you threw out the bait, and it's either an attachment or it's something that they created themselves. And projection of will is a very powerful thing. And I've seen people distort equipment. And, Dave, you know me, this is a rant of mine, so shut me off if you need to. But I've seen people mess with equipment because they wanted a response so bad. They projected that. And when they got the response, then they started feeding that more and more. And they start manifesting these occurrences. People don't give themselves enough credit for the abilities that they can do, mainly out of fear. And so when they're going out and dabbling, when they're dabbling like that, they're not being respectful. And that's the biggest thing, is to be respectful of not only the property that they're at, the location, understand the history. That's huge, to be respectful. So when people are saying, "Oh, I broke into this building and we did this and we did that," and we had that situation not too far from here, and the first thing that comes to mind is you're not respecting the property. If you can't respect the property, you can't respect the spirits that are there. You're not respecting yourself. But it's everything has to be built out of respect and open communication. So when we go, for example, the difference between these enthusiasts, they want the rush, and they go into these locations. If nothing's happening, they're going to make it happen. We've seen people, we've heard, rephrase that, we've heard of people going into locations doing paintings on the walls so that they can scare their friends, and then to encourage activity. That's not encouraging activity, that's being disrespectful. And activity starts happening because fear starts generating. And if there is a spirit there, now you have anger behind it. Mm-hmm. So, the respect has to be there for the location. Like, for example, when I go into a location, I always burn an offering incense to say, "Thank you for allowing me to be here." It's just like me walking into your home. I'm going to shake your hand, maybe not now with the COVID thing, and say, "Thank you for allowing me to be here." It's no different. And people during this time of year, the veil is thinning. There are people, as Alyson was mentioning on our break, people are more aware of things that are happening. And because they don't have a definition for it, then they want to, unfortunately, they get wrapped up into whatever TV show they saw, and they use that as their definition book.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's exactly it. Nicole, you pretty much see the same thing in the UFO field too, don't you?
Yes, and a lot is lost. A lot of the realistic aspects are lost to the entertainment side of this community. And that always irks me, because the high strangeness in reality is entertaining. It doesn't need to be fluffed up or Hollywoodized or anything. I wish they would just give it to us straight. But, I don't know. I think the ratings would hold. I think they would actually gain, an audience if they just express the phenomenon true to form instead of stylizing it. And I think it worries me, like you just mentioned, Matt, dabbling. And that immediately made me want to ask you guys a question of, like, what do we think of things like, I know there's probably millions of teenagers across America right now running into a bathroom and looking in a mirror and saying things like Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, or Candyman, or doing these little, like the Slumber Party levitation tricks. And what are the possible dangers of maybe dabbling in things like that?
It really depends on the individual, because if a strong-willed individual is playing around with those things, and they're playing around more with their will. I'll tell you, just for example, and this is me at the age of 12. I'm focusing in the mirror in the bathroom.
Matt, I'm going to get you to hold that. I apologize. I'm going to get you to hold that thought right there because we do have to go to break at the bottom of the hour as we continue on with the SOR Roundtable here on Spaced Out Radio. We got a great panel for this one. Ouija Board expert Karen Dahlman. We have Nicole Sakach, UFO researcher and assistant to Grant Cameron, and the husband and wife team, paranormal investigators Alyson Ford and Matt Lay. We continue on with the Paranormal Roundtable, talking all things spooky and ghostly, right after this on Spaced Out Radio. Sorry, guys, we're clear. Clear.
Woo! I haven't heard that in a while.
Clear. Zap them again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because when little piece of information for everybody else in the panel. On 2001, I was hit by lightning and I was flatlined in the hospital. So, of course, they couldn't hit me with the paddles because I was in there for electricity. So, yeah, that was always my big fear because they had when I came back, they had the paddles in there and everything. But of course, the doctor wouldn't allow them to engage it. So every time I hear clear, I kind of had that twitch.
Don't blame you. All right. Give me 1 second. How you doing, Karen?
I think Karen's muted.
We're having 90K wins.
Thanks, guys. I think I'm unmuted now.
Oh, that's nice.
Hey, I'm back. Hey, but I was listening the whole time. But I love what Matt just said. Did anything happen to you that you remember when you were flatlining?
Yeah.
That you care to share?
Yeah, and it's so funny because people's upbringing, when you're telling the story of it, and I've had people, say, did you see the light? Did you hear angels?
Right.
And I said, no. And I said, as soon as I said no, the guy looked at me and goes, you're a sinner. Anyway. But anyway, so get away from that ignorance. Have you ever, when you were a child, did you ever have that safe place? Some people, it was like underneath the covers. Mine was a weeping willow tree. I used to that was my safe place, where I could play and I felt like I was in my own magical world. Nothing ever, could, touch me or whatever, no bullies, no nothing. That's what it felt like to me. I was actually furious at the doctor when he brought me back. He said he never seen anybody look so angry in his life.
Very cool.
So there was no up, no down, no concept of time, but it was the safest place I'd ever been. And
that's amazing.
So I would, when the doctor brought me back, he's looking at me and goes, can you tell me your name? Honestly, it's like that old joke about the baby, put me back. It's,
No, I shared similar feelings with my out-of-body near-death experiences with that as well. Many do. They describe that happiness feeling, the pure joy, the home. It feels like home. Or cosmic.
It's a reconnection.
Yeah.
It's like you're missing a connection that you were missing, and then all of a sudden there it is. It's like tomorrow night. reenacting the ritual I've done since the early 80s, and but we've recently started measuring. We're using the same technology that's used for UFOs to measure for time distortions, as a DT meter that measures time distortions, and we're running that right through the center of the circle, and but in all cases we always get this same euphoric type feeling of reconnecting, and it's not a ritual based off of deities or anything like that. It's more based off of wormhole theory, and so we found, and I know we probably won't have much time, but we found located dead center of this building that we've recently moved into. It's a very strong natural magnetic field, and as it's been getting closer to tomorrow, the magnetic field's been actually widening. We've been measuring it with a tri-field meter. So
nice.
Used to be isolated to a little 2-foot area, and now it's expanded out to over 13 feet. So it's we're pretty stoked about tomorrow's findings.
Wow. I'm
That is
stoked
awesome.
about. Yeah.
Very cool. That's
We'll
awesome.
need an update. We will need an update on Mondays night's SOR. You have to drop in an update.
Okay.
All right, guys, 8 seconds here. Matt, we're kicking things back off with you. Here we go.
Okay.
We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Thank you for joining us. Dave Scott here in the captain's chair. We appreciate you taking the time. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio and on Instagram @SpacedOutRadioShow. We continue on with the SOR Roundtable tonight. Matt and Alyson are here. They're out of Saskatchewan. Husband and wife paranormal couple. They've got some cool stories to share. Karen Dahlman, we have the Ouija Board expert du jour, and UFO girl Nicole Sakach. Here we go. Final half hour of the show. Let's get weird here, people. Matt, you were telling a tale right before we went to break.
Yeah, and we were talking about dabbling. Kids dabbling, doing the Bloody Mary thing in the mirror and whatnot. From a personal standpoint, in some aspects, not all, this could be a conditioning thing for the will. And the example I was going to give was when staring in the mirror when I was about 12. And this is once again in Mobile, Alabama. Don't hold that against me. I was focusing, and there's a technique when using mirrors and whatnot where you focus enough to where you can fade out the surrounding area. And, a lot of people do it when you're dazed and whatever. And after a long shift, sometimes we do it while we're driving. But don't recommend it. But anyway, especially if I'm on the road. So I'm focusing, and all I'm focusing on is I was fascinated when I was a kid about levitation and, everything that you always hear. So while I'm focusing on it, I'm thinking in my head, levitation. Well, of course, it never happened. Well, my brother, who was 17 years older than me, opens up the door, and he said my body was straight perfectly out. And when he goes, what the hell's going on, quote unquote, I hit the ground face first. And so is it a bad thing that I did that or a good thing? Does it spark my curiosity to find out why that happened? Yes, it did. Now, did I do it for a rush? Maybe when I was 12. But a lot of times these kids are doing things for rushes, the fear factor. And there are, and Karen, you might be able to attest to this, it would be more psychological than actual, because now they scared the crap out of themselves. Now they're going to constantly look over their shoulder thinking that something's following them, something, along these lines, because the fear is going to manifest. In that aspect, yes, I would say that it's dangerous. To say that a spirit or something's going to come through and quote unquote possess and whatnot, no, that's not the circumstances that would generate that situation. I can give a billion examples of what could cause that from a practitioner point of view, improper use of. I have a library here of books from 14th century and and further back of records of the precautions that should be taken, and they've been repeated throughout the centuries, and those precautions are there for a reason. And when people just go in and say, I'm going to make up a name, insert name here, and they don't go through the proper precautions, yes, that could end up not necessarily bad for them, but maybe the environment that they're in, because in all cases, you're not the target. It's usually your environment is the target.
Interesting. Karen, your thoughts?
Well, I definitely think you can influence the environment around you, as you just mentioned, Matt. And when you were talking, it made me think of the experiment that happened called the Philip experiment, where a group of people gathered together and they decided to create a fictitious spirit they're going to communicate with. Mm-hmm. And they did it through mostly table tipping and a few other different ways of communicating with the spirit. But they ended up creating a spirit, and then it started communicating to it but it wasn't a real spirit. They created what we would call tulpa. They created a thought form. They created just in their own mind. We're going to believe the spirit. His name is Philip. He lived at this century. He did this. He did that. And that energy started communicating back. So when you look at that experiment, it makes you wonder, wow, we are really powerful creator beings. Maybe we have the ability to do psychokinesis. Maybe we have the ability to actually create and develop and co-create these forms and these tulpas and these energies and these. I mean,
look at the history of the golem. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, you can either look at it from a mythological standpoint or look at it from a factual standpoint. But nevertheless, it's a group of people that are manifesting and creating a vessel that they are empowering.
Well, yeah. And then the new ones, like you see now, the ones that are online, like Slender Man, and then the
Zozo,
that Siren Head, and all this too. So again, it's multiple people experiencing these things, even though it is fictional and from where it started. But.
Well, it's like the experiment, and I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize, but the experiment we're doing tomorrow night, we were asked why we don't live stream it. Well, we don't want that many projected, focused energy people looking at it, influencing it, because we don't know who's watching it. There could be a very angry individual, and that poison could be getting into our controlled environment. So we do have that capability.
We do, and we have to think about this is another thing I wanted to say too. When you're talking, everybody else was talking tonight too. I was thinking about this. We don't give ourselves enough credit for our abilities. And for example, when I'm talking about the Ouija board doesn't do anything. It's neutral. I do all the work. It's me. The Ouija board just is a talisman. It reminds me of my own abilities within. So we forget how powerful our mind is. And you guys all of you mentioned on this tonight, you talked about how we can influence certain things. Like Matt, you said about your brother. We've talked earlier about how we can influence, the person who's having a bad experience by helping them empower themselves. They can make an impact that way. And I got to say, too, often what we think is a haunting or a poltergeist, maybe it's, as you guys touched on as well, it's our own mind creating and crafting more experiences so we can have that push back to us to say something exists because we want it so badly. That's not to say we didn't create something. That's to say, let's give ourselves some credit here. Maybe all these hauntings aren't hauntings, but our own psychic kinetic abilities and other kinds of abilities we have. So we really don't know. And the other thing that I've been really pushing the boundaries of consciousness about and really looking at is when we call something a spirit, maybe it's just another being living in a parallel dimension right next to us. Yeah, like Nicole Kidman and the others. Remember that? Who was the dead people there? And it's not that anybody's dead. We're just in other dimensions. And that is what Sai has been talking to me about. He's in another dimension, but he can transfer into our dimension. So we have to look at these. We can't just go label it and that's what it is.
Karen, I have a story for you that kind of lends credence to that. A couple of years ago, there was 9 of us doing a paranormal investigation along the original Gold Rush Trail that is up here. And the original Gold Rush Trail, which runs straight to Alaska, it's literally about 3/4 of a mile from my house. That's how close it is. And so there were 9 of us there, and we started doing this almost immediately when we started. We ended up running into what we believe a Chinese couple that was heading up north to a small town called Barkerville. And we were able to figure out through yes-no questions that there were just the 2 of them, and they had their horse and their buggy and everything along those lines. And we went to say goodnight to them. And I let them know, I said, well, if you continue down to the bottom of the hill, there is a post house there where you can stop because it is getting late. You could stop and you could get some rest and some food and feed your animals and everything like that. So we were like, great. So we all stood there kind of like, okay, yeah, thank you, goodbye. But all of our K2 meters, all of our gear was still going off. And you got to realize there's 9 of us. Each one of us has a K2 meter as well. And everything is still lighting up between orange and red on this K2. And all of a sudden it came to me. They're not moving. And it's because we're on the trail. And so I had everybody move off the path and, half on one side, half on the other. And as they continued on their trail, you could see the K2 meters go from red down to nothing, each one of them, because we moved off the trail. So it had me thinking, were we ghosts to them? And then on their parallel universe, their timeline is just going on right now. I'm still to this day not sure if they were ghosts or we intercepted them on their timeline and we were the ghosts to them.
Absolutely. There you go. That's a great example of that.
It's weird. Weird.
Totally weird.
I mean, and as a paranormal investigator too, it's like, what are the conditions that facilitate something like that? Is it environmental or is it just like a conscious collective, or what are
triggers?
What are the triggers? What is the environmental? What is the situation that would facilitate something like that to happen? And taking it one step further, how do we recreate that? And again, bringing what we have been working with magics and that bringing that into it is, we're trying to recreate that environment to try to have those same experiences and trying to measure it at the same time.
Very true. Very true. Do you think that you could do the same thing with aliens, Nicole?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't sound like Nicole. No offense.
Emphatic yes.
Yes, I do think there are parallels with that and UFOs. And I think it comes down to even like when we've spoken before about CE5 or meditation practices. And it is kind of like what Matt mentioned about a ritual, but maybe not, the long historical side of a ritual, but people or experiencers coming up with their own kind of routine to get in the field. And one thing, partnering up with Grant through a lot of his research is, we come across experiencers that do dabble in these fields of, they're out there and they're trying these own experiences of how they do get to that point and make contact or know that, beings are around. And, so I personally, to raise my vibration to kind of get in a happy state of mind, is I dance like an idiot. I know some people chant. I know some people will go into like a deep meditation, and it's not maybe just limited to, making contact with UFOs. I think people look at it now more so in that lens of maybe trying, like you mentioned with spirit, reaching contact with your guides or your higher self. And so many people come to the conclusion that this experience is just as much an inward journey as it is an outward experience. And I think when we're researching into consciousness, a lot of that is making sense to us. And so it is, like you just mentioned too, it's like we're trying to find these aspects of it that we can quantify and repeat and do again to get to that spot, because we all know getting there is the hard part. It's like we want to skip that part and be there so we can study it and be involved and find out more from it.
Very true.
But Dave, you brought up an interesting point about the dimensions and, were we ghosts to them, or are they ghosts, or is it like a phantom dimension? Don't you find that often in like a dreamscape as well? It's like, do you have dreams where you're yourself, but do you ever have dreams where you're not yourself? You feel like you, but then you see yourself, and like I've had a dream where I've been a man before. And people tell me that I might be remembering a past life or even a future life. And it's like this dream dimension somehow, or that dream state somehow lets us connect to another dimension or timeline or future self, past self. It is timelessness. So it's so interesting.
Yeah, it isn't so much me, but I know other people who have had that same experience. And, for me, the only dreams that I really remember is when it is something that it's almost like they want me to go through, whoever they are, which is kind of weird, So that's kind of what I follow. But I've never really had that other life dream where I've been someone else. I feel kind of ripped off by that, to be blunt.
I don't know. I question it, though. Like, I don't know if it's a version of myself or if it's somebody else. But, I mean, I feel like me when I recognize that. And a lot of the good thoughts I have about it, it's like that glimpse to, like, the oneness. It's like,
right.
Maybe it's, I am experiencing somebody else through that oneness connectivity. So.
Right. Alyson, what do you think of Nicole, what she's saying here?
No, yeah, I mean, when I take it into, doing paranormal research and that, I find that, when we are in that state of mind, and I think that's why we get a lot of really good evidence, because we're in that state of mind, that open state of mind, that we're able to, thinking outside the box, I guess, and, just thinking that it could be like an alternate universe, or, thinking along those lines. And I think too, being practitioners, you're kind of used to walking in those different areas as well. And I always I made a joke to Matt the one day, because when we go do an investigation, if we're not having too much, anything happening, to get more response or to get more interaction, sometimes we say, hey, even Corey, our team lead, will say, hey, Matt, go do your thing. And so, of course, me and, my thinking process, I'm thinking, well, when Matt goes in there and he does his thing, or, what he does when he's trying to interact with spirit or get more response, I'm thinking, like, well, why is it him? Why is he getting a better response or and I'm thinking, well, maybe somehow he is more visible on a different plane. Maybe is it because of the vibration that is raised, or being a practitioner? I'm not sure. I'm still trying to. I'm like, is he like a beacon, or it's not just him, but other people who are practitioners? Are they a beacon to that other dimension, or that other side, that other veil? And so, of course, I guess if you are, this other spirit or other entities on the other side of the veil, and they see a beacon of light, I mean, they're going to probably, gravitate towards that. But
yeah, no kidding. No kidding. We've only got about 90. Yes, it's always the beard. It is always the beard. We've only got about 90 seconds left with you guys tonight, and I want to say thank you so much for making this a very, very special and warm Halloween Paranormal Roundtable. And Karen, for you, I know this year, we talked about it last year, the last 5 years now, 5 years we've had you on every Halloween show.
Right.
It's tradition.
Yep. We used to do our Ouija board session, didn't we?
We will get back to this. We will get back to the live Ouija board sessions, hopefully next Halloween. But I guess next Halloween will be on a Sunday or something along those lines. If it's a Monday, we're good. If it's a Sunday, we're screwed.
Well, listen, it was great doing it this time, and so I really appreciate you having me and joining the rest of the guests here and everybody here in the chat room as well. So thank you for having me.
Well, we try our best around here. We try our best, and we had a good group of people here tonight. And I want to say thank you for continuing the tradition on Spaced Out Radio with you being here for the Halloween show. I love you, and I think you're one of the best.
Woo, woo, woo.
Yay. And to Matt and Alyson, thank you so much for helping entertain our audience tonight. It was always a pleasure, and I truly believe it when I say, there aren't a lot of high-quality paranormal investigators in Canada, but I think you two are two of the best, and continue your fantastic work.
Thank you, Dave. We do appreciate it. It's always an honor to be on the show. We love it.
Oh, we love you guys, too, around here. And, of course, Nicole Sakach, you weirdo, thank you for coming on once again.
You guys, I always learn so much from paranormal investigators, and somehow I am able to apply it into ufology more and more these days. So thank you for sharing your stories and knowledge and insight. It's been fun tonight. And thank you, Dave,
Not a
the
problem.
host with them.
Not a problem. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everybody in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio. We have Facebook, Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night.